Section D. Let's have a look through the scenario. Progress Westward Data is a data collection and storage company. It provides support for the education sector in the UK. Many schools use PWD to gather useful market research information for them to use. Okay, so we're looking here at gathering data from people and then putting it together to produce information. PWD uses online surveys to obtain feedback from staff and pupils about the quality of canteen food and school transport. So we're going to be looking at how do they get that feedback. PWD also collects small data sets from individual schools covering exam performance, attendance, pupil numbers, etc. It combines these small data sets into bigger data sets that can be shared with the Government Department for Education. So if you think about that, they're going to be drawing together small amounts of data from individual schools, but that means loads and loads and loads of data, which will make a very large data set, what we call big data. Okay, so nice simple one to start with. PWD is a data collection and storage company. Define what is meant by the term data. Now remember, data is what we process to make information. The data is just the raw facts, the individual facts like numbers. PWD collects data for schools using a variety of methods, including online surveys. Well, there's one way. Can't use that one again. Identify, again, just name something. One word, quite sufficient. One other data collection method that PWD could use when carrying out market research. So how else could they get answers to questions about the quality of canteen food and school transport? So we could talk about questionnaires. That's your most obvious answer. They could actually sit people down and ask them questions about things. They could also use sensors to measure people going through queues when they go to the canteen, or they could use sensors to track school transport. That's another way they could do that. They could use focus groups to gather people together and discuss with them. So any of these things will be perfectly good. So just name a method. Explain, again, give a reason. One reason why validity, what do we mean by validity, is important when PWD collects data for schools. Now, validity doesn't mean correctness. Validity means that it's appropriate and useful. So this would mean that it's something that's relevant to the answers that they want to give. So why is it important that the data is valid? And again, we've got to explain. So something because something. So we could say something like the data collected must be relevant. Otherwise, so now we're saying why that's important. The data collected must be relevant. Otherwise, the results won't be useful. So you said what could be a problem with it if it's not valid, and that would lead to the results not being useful at the end. Remember, we've talked in the past about GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out. If you put the wrong data in, the wrong information will come out. Another thing you might like to say is that, government data must be useful for its purpose. So there's the final. But, so here's your sort of explanation of what could be a problem. But the answers given by parents or students may be inaccurate or biased. So that will lead to the results not being useful. There's a couple of answers you could give. And now we come on to the longest question on the paper. And it's important here we understand that we're talking about data sets. The Government Department for Education uses the data sets created by PWD to produce national statistics. So this is the large quantities of data, big data on school performance outcomes and pupil numbers per region. Discuss the benefits and drawbacks of using data sets to generate these national statistics. So we've got to talk about why it's good to have the data sets used for these national statistics and why it might be a problem. So again, this is a 10-mark question, down the bottom here, 10 marks. So we want to be giving 3 good, strong paragraph answers. So we want to be talking about 2 benefits and a drawback, or 1 benefit and 2 drawbacks. So we need to discuss both if we're going to expect to get into the higher mark bands. So we could talk about the benefit of, 1 benefit might be we get a national overall picture of how schools are doing. So that's what the large national statistics will give you, which means that you can compare individual schools. So you could compare individual schools to your region or the whole country, because you've got all that data giving you the national information. So that's one possible answer you could talk about. You could talk about the fact that you can see trends. So a trend means showing whether things are going up or going down. So can be used to see if different initiatives or different things that people are doing. So let's say they might have put in a different way of teaching, or they might have put more money into a particular subject. Can be used to see if different initiatives are making a difference to a subject or year group. So those are 2 good things about using large data sets. Now, what might be a problem with them? Well, again, we've got the problem of inaccurate data can lead to wrong conclusions. So it's that GIGO thing again. If the data they're collecting in the individual data sets is some of it's wrong, or it's biased, or it's sort of sloped in one direction, then that could lead to bad conclusions being made from it. You can also talk about the problems of processing big data. So large amounts of data So remember, big data is data that can't be processed by normal methods. So large amounts of data can mean that it's hard to process, requiring large computing resources. So that's a drawback to having so much data. Remember, keep in each paragraph you write, make your point, talk about how that point is going to affect what you want. So the Department of Education obviously want to see the performance outcomes and see what the effects are. So why is using those large amounts of data going to lead to that being helpful to see those results and to see what effects it's having? And then what could be the problems with seeing those results that come out of it? So again, with this one, 3 mark bands. If you just state facts, then you're in the bottom mark band, 1 to 3 marks, depending on how many things you describe. If you go into descriptions, saying what effect it's going to have or how that matters, then you're in the middle mark band. So you can be looking at getting 4 to 6 marks. If you go on then to talk about how that affects the whole production of statistics and how useful those statistics are, then you're getting into the top mark band, 7 to 10 marks.